or Garrett Nussmeier staying? Carter the Power Bryant joining us. Buddy, good evening. How are you doing?
I'll say this. Anybody that does YouTube or radio or anything has
We're
an
all
ego.
you got a little
You,
narcissism in
you,
you.
you got to have it. You got to have a
Mhm.
I'm him type of mentality to survive on social media. But you're right. I mean, the biggest news, Blake, is Garrett Nussmeier staying.
And you know what's crazy, Carter, to rudely interrupt you very quickly? You know
Yeah, go
what's
ahead.
so wild about that? Is LSU literally formally announced their defensive line coach staying, and it's not bigger than Garrett Nussmeier staying around LSU. How wild is that?
It's wild, but it's also just true. I mean, look, you're only as good as your backup quarterback, especially if your starter goes down. Now, one of Jaden's best traits has been his durability, and he has dispelled a notion that if you run a lot, you're automatically going to get hurt. So you do give Jaden a lot of credit for that. But Garrett gives you a different type of skill set, as you were mentioning a minute ago, and he just gives you playable depth at the game's most important position. And there are other schools, not only in the SEC, but throughout college football, they don't even have a guy that they feel good as their starter at
Alabama.
Alabama being one of those schools. And it is very fascinating that LSU's quarterback picture is also clear. What's very interesting is this is the longest it's been in an LSU offseason where the number one and the number two was clear. It was actually, previous 2019 LSU. That was the last time where it was crystal clear who the starter was and who the backup was. And that provides unity in the locker room, right?
And you know what's so crazy about that? Did you see the Garrett Nussmeier mic'd up on the LSU
Yeah.
release?
Yeah.
You know what the biggest thing in all of that for me was? It wasn't the throws, it wasn't the checks, it wasn't any of that. It was the very last 2 seconds of that video when Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier are literally doing their own handshake and embracing one another when Garrett rifles in that touchdown to Bryant Thomas Jr. at the spring game. That just goes to show you the buy-in, Carter, that this look, I don't want to overreact because I've done, I've done it before. I've been right in the overreaction. I've been wrong in the overreaction. I got to tell you, buddy, it's a different feel. It's a different feel right now than I think that people anticipate. Because, Carter, there could be a potential where you might have a two quarterback system that plays at a high level. Right? Like you could have that. You could have Chris Leak Tebow and be like, hey, bro, you just have two dudes.
It could be like that. And I'm lucky to know someone in the Nuss orbit, and they always said that this guy wanted to make it work at LSU, and he didn't want to transfer. And even though he's not really done anything on the field outside of one really spectacular second half versus Georgia, he has shown you flashes, but he's also shown you resilience, right? There probably were times where people surrounding Garrett Nussmeier said, hey, you probably should pack your bags and go. Maybe people that were on the fringe of the Nussmeier orbit. It was interesting. This past weekend, I got to spend a lot of time with Jeray Jenkins. And
I
one
saw
thing he
go
did,
catch that interview if you haven't already.
yeah. One thing he revealed to me was how much pressure he had to transfer. And he was very upfront about it. He said that there was people that were telling him, hey, you got to go. People that said, hey, you're in there with Jamar and Terrace, go. Hey, you're in there now with Kayshawn, go. You're in there now with Jack Besh, go. And he stayed. And there's something to be said about that. Now, some kids do need to go. Some kids need to go try and make it work somewhere else. But if you get a taste of success at a school like LSU, there's something about playing at a school where you know you're going to have great surrounding talent, you know you're going to have great resources, you know the facility, you know everyone surrounding you. Um, it normally works out for a lot of people that wait it out. And I give Garrett.
Because you say that, look at Eli Ricks this weekend. He went from a top 10 lock to not getting drafted at all.
And look, it's different strokes for different folks. Like, you know, Trey Palmer boosted his stock going somewhere else. He needed
drastically.
Yeah. So it's different for different people. I'm not saying it's a one size fit all. You need to be like Jure, because Jure is honestly built different mentally than most people. For some people, you do need to go somewhere else and get a fresh start. But I was just constantly told Garrett is going to stay. And what is very interesting is when Walker Howard got to LSU, and I bring him up for this reason. Everyone was predicting that Garrett Nussmeier was going to go, especially after Miles Brennan came back. And, you know, when you're young and you're a quarterback, it's a very mental thing. You're the son of a quarterback coach. You know, you have connections throughout the country and you can go somewhere where you can play right away. All the outside noise was pointing towards Garrett Nussmeier not ever really playing or ever seeing a potential where he is the guy in 2024. Now he might get some opportunity in 2023. So I give a lot of credit to that young man for sticking it out, and LSU fans should do the same for him.
The second biggest thing, okay, and we only got to topic one. I only got 3 topics for you tonight. Second biggest thing, Carter, nobody entered the portal.
Yeah.
I mean, call me crazy. You know, as Britney Spears once said, they call me crazy. They just can't see. Well, everybody can see she's crazy now. Nobody has entered the transfer portal this spring, and the window's closed. Yeah. I don't think Carter. Look, that man. I mean, listen to this. I said this before you came on. Listen to this. Listen to this. Of the 2020 and 2021 class, Eric Gilbert, Eli Ricks, Phillip Webb, Jordan Tolles, Antoine Sampa, Marcus Dumerville, Max Johnson, Eric Taylor, Dwight McLaughlin, Coy Moore, Alex Adams, Cole Taylor, Ali Gay, who just left, Xavier Hill, TJ Finley. 2021 class, Derek Davis, Deion Smith, Landon Jackson, Corey Connor, Demarius McGee, Xavier Carter, Jack Besh, Bug Strong, Jalen Sheet, Big Gage, Trey Bradford. All gone. And now you have, it's quiet like a church mouse. LSU football is quieter than a church mouse.
It's wild. It's wild. And it shows you that the transfer portal was a great rule change for LSU. And I'm telling you, there's something about the brand. And I think, you know, obviously that's bled over into other sports, maybe even more so than football. Obviously, I think a lot of you know what those sports are. But there's something about playing for those 3 letters, like Kim Mulkey said, you know, and, you know, now anytime a Louisiana kid hits the portal, it's going to LSU. And LSU might not have even made back channel contact. It's if anybody with Louisiana heritage, if someone that's next door neighbor's cousin graduated from Neville, he is transferring to LSU. There's something to be said.
After you get off, what I heard about Keon Coleman and Logan Diggs, but if you haven't already, go to ayssnetwork.com and figure that out. But you're right. I mean, look, they could go portal hunting again. And let me tell you right now, I heard people saying this is the biggest thing when Keon Coleman went to the portal. This I know people don't watch college football the way that we do. They said, Blake, he can't play in that room.
No. Yeah.
He's
good. No, he's a good footballer.
No, he's a starter. Let's call what he probably would be. Am I wrong? No. You're trying to be safe to back guard so you won't be wrong in the future just in case.
No. I will. I it just depends. If you're starting 11 personnel, I would still
He would
start.
play over BTJ right now, and you know it.
No.
He-
Uh-uh.
Carter,
Don't
he
do
has more
BTJ.
catches against Ohio State almost than what your boy BTJ has in his career.
Yeah, and there's more to being a receiver than just that.
I
BTJ.
get that, but don't act like he's coming in here and he's Rudy Boo.
No, he's really good. He's really good. But we
He's
can
playing
also.
the X day. He could play the X
I
day one. Am I wrong?
you know this. I know this. I am always open to being objective about every player. I don't know anyone close to BTJ. I don't. I've never spoken to BTJ before, but
Carter.
he is good. Brian Thomas Jr.
On what
deserves.
36 total career catches?
That's because he's in a more crowded wide receiver room.
That's
Michigan
horse.
State-
That Carter.
Michigan
horse
State
shit.
had the
That's
Reed
horse
kid.
shit. That's horse shit when you were second in the team in drops. That's horse shit now.
Did he have some drops? Absolutely. But I will also say this. BTJ's spring game was very good.
I agree. He can really turn it up.
We've also seen some really good yak ability from him.
Agreed.
We've also seen some really good blocking down the field. Now, here's a good thing.
That block that he had against Alabama, legendary.
Legendary. And it wasn't just that block. He became a more complete football player this year.
Yeah, he got a little nasty in the running game. You like to see it anyway.
Yeah, but I will agree with you that Keon Coleman has a little bit more alpha in him. I'd agree with you on that. Keon Coleman took over more portions of games than BTJ has up to this point in their career. Now,
let's keep BTJ in it. He would start at the X. Don't put a player on it.
Yeah. So it would then come down to if you think Keon Coleman is way better than all the other options that have been in the room. And I would venture off to say yes. So I had to think about it. I do think he would
the
start.
Only guy that he does not come in here and start over is Malik.
No, I agree.
Right.
My point, though, would be obviously when it comes to starters, it's going to come down to if LSU wants to run more 12. I think they are going to base mostly out of 11. And I think if Keon Coleman came in, he would have a good opportunity to be a starter. Now, it would be very hard. It is a loaded wide receiver room. But the one thing he would have over everybody else in the receiver room is he is proven. So I would agree with you that he would start, and that would also give Malik a little bit more freedom to play the slot, which I think he was very effective out of this past year.
I don't think Malik's playing the slot.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But you can put him there a little bit more this year. And the one thing I like about Malik Neighbors being in the slot is he and Jaden have more chemistry, and Jaden will avoid the middle of the field because he's turnover averse. So
I talked to somebody today about this. You know what Jaden's let me be careful on how I say this. You know why Jaden didn't throw it down the field as much as he wanted to?
Let's hear it.
They led the country in drops in the middle of the field, in between the hash marks.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. And you know what I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, no.
So,
they did have drops there, especially early in the season.
Carter, name some. I mean, the only boundary drop I remember was Auburn BTJ when Garrett threw it to him.
No, there were some bad drops over the middle. Some of them were late and a little bit behind him. So it wasn't the most catchable ball, if I'm being fair. But there were also some in there that it wasn't the best throw, but you also need to catch it to move the chains.
Did Justin Jefferson make that catch?
Well, he's.
Does Keon Coleman make that catch?
I don't know.
Does Malik Neighbors? You know how I know Malik does? Because we've seen it. All right.
Yeah.
Logan Diggs, also a guy that some people are talking about.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a telltale sign about something about John Emery?
It could be. Every time you bring up John Emery discourse, it gets crazy. I've had the most visceral.
I'm not going to reply. I just want your opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So, every time you say something about John Emery, your DMs will fill up. So I'm not going to say anything else. I hope he's a part of the team next year. He did some good things for us last year. Logan Diggs is a very complete running back. He is a very good running back in all facets of the game. And he knows Brian Kelly. He's playing for the home state school. I was very impressed. I did a 20-minute video on Logan Diggs, did a deep, detailed film study of what I like and some things that need some work. But where I really liked him, Blake, was pass protection.
Right.
He had some really good pass protection reps. And that is very key for what LSU is going to want to do, especially if you want Jaden to become a better passer next season. So obviously Logan proved to me they can catch out of the backfield. He proved to me that he can run between the tackles, proved to me he could pass protect. When I watch him, it's not anything extraordinary. So when you put him on, don't think that, he's the next, he's a second coming or he's a Heisman contender. He has a lot of TDP in him, right? He is a very solid back. And I think he would bolster this running back room, especially a running back room that has a lot of injury issues. So I've been very adamant and pro Josh Williams. I really like him a lot. The locker room really likes him a lot. I think that adds value. He was also a member of the 2019 LSU team. So I think, having some of that championship pedigree does mean something. And I like him a lot. I like Caleb Jackson a lot. I know you like him as much as I do. And Trey Holly had some real good flashes in the spring game, and just throughout spring, you would hear it. But as high as you can be about anybody in that room, it is good to have somebody reliable who's been mostly healthy throughout his career, and once again, who can be really good in the passing game, and that would go a long way for LSU.
Two things for me on Logan Diggs if he does decide LSU this week. Number one, he had 10 catches for 211 yards, 20 plus yards per catch. That's number one. I think the biggest thing for me when I would watch Logan Diggs, I always used to ask myself, why isn't he getting the ball more? Carter, he played 175 plays a season ago. He had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He averaged about 6 yards per touch. That's not bad at all, especially for a back that you want to be reliable with and play that many snaps as a rotational piece. All right, Carter, last one for you. Have we talked about Tyler Buckner?
No, it's good.
Okay. So we had not talked about Tyler Buckner heading over to Alabama.
The Gumps.
Thoughts?
Yeah, so obviously he was hurt last year. He got hurt during the Marshall game and came back for the South Carolina game. Threw 3 picks in that game, one of which was deflected in return for a tutty. But he had some breathtaking throws in that game as well. Overall, though, it is very weird. It is a very weird move. You do begin to wonder some about Nick. And you do begin to wonder if BK's in his head a little bit, right? I think some of that is there. Nick Saban, if you've listened and read interviews, losses stick with him bad. Like they just do. They do for everybody.
And you know what? Especially ones like when he got beat by Georgia.
And like ones that happen in Tiger Stadium where
I agree with that one too.
Let's
But you had already talked about that one, so I was just
yeah, exactly. You're just adding to it. Nick made some coaching errors in that game versus LSU. He made a few of them.
name a couple.
Well, the 2-point conversion try to go up 5 instead of to go up 4. The way that game would have played out, Bryce Young.
I get it because he can kick a field goal if LSU goes up by 8. Like I
Right.
get that. I get that.
So I can kind of get that logic, but I just think you kick the extra point in that, and I'm an aggressive guy. I don't mind going for 2. I really don't. But you would have had the game-winning field goal to win it. I also think there were a few defensive things he could have done once Jaden started ripping him to shreds. And still, I think for me, Nick, I think, is behind in some of his fourth down decision making, and I also think, I mean, obviously they recruited 9 5-stars that arguably was the most he's ever had in one recruiting class. The overall roster talent is still really good, but we've had 2 consecutive years where their offensive line has been a mess. 2 consecutive years where they had no skill guys really out of Latu, who is decent, and Jameson Williams 2 years ago. That team has been lifted by Bryce Young. You could just see it. And I think, for me, everyone brings up with Nick, hey, yeah, I think he only lost 2 games by a total of 4 points, final plays of the game, kind of BS. But at the same time, there was a lot of close games that they were lucky to win. Texas, Ole Miss. There's another one that Texas A&M. Right. So I do think he's feeling a little bit of the pressure that the rest of the SEC's coaching has gotten better. Now, does he still have one of the most talented teams in America? He does. Does he still have JaQuincy Kool-Aid McKinstry? Yes. Does he still have
He's about to start a true freshman running back and a true freshman left tackle, too.
It's a weird
answer to all of this, Carter, is Tyler Buckner and Tommy Reese.
It's weird. It's very weird. And
what does he know? What does he know that we don't? Is there anything that he knows that we don't?
I just think that they should start Milroe and just live with the results. That's what I would do. I mean,
Ty Simpson's not ready, buddy. I mean, I hate to say that, but up here in his noggin, he's not ready. Carter, he threw the only zone coverage, a cover two, what is predicated to covering up the middle of the field. Predicated. He's throwing in the middle of the field on the cover two.
Well,
it's exactly what Tampa 2 has been created for.
Well, Tampa 2, yeah. Well, I will say this. I got some inside information here. Did you know Nick Saban is going? He is running the triple option with Jalen Milroe. Bucket.
Bye-bye. You wasted a sound button on that.
No, I wasted it because a few weeks ago, I didn't get my he's back when you had the fill-in guy. I need
Don't
that.
Don't call Zach just a fill-in guy.
He's not just a fill-in guy.
And all he wants for his birthday is a big booty hoe. Like his name was 2 Chainz.
It's his birthday today?
It was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Wait, is Zach producing tonight?
He is producing.
I like it, man. Get you that big booty gardening tool, baby. Go on ahead. Do your thing. Let's go.
Did you just call a hoe a gardening tool?
Isn't that what it is? We got to keep it PG-13 for all the AYS Nation.
Not noticed. By the way, we're going on TV. Big announcement was made last week, but Roku and all that kind of stuff. So the cursing's got to stop. But
yeah, got to keep it family friendly, man.
Well, they let us go TV 14, so we can say 2 curse words.
So you're going on Roku. What? So we're gonna be able to worldwide. Well, you're already worldwide on YouTube.
Call me Will Ferrell because I'm going prestige worldwide.